kind of understanding, that kind of sympathy, that kind of deep emotional feeling. Then Mark understood what it meant to be poor. He understood what it meant not to have. He understood what it meant to be short on finances, on resources. He understood what it meant to lack, full formal education. He knew all of those lacks. And instead of crying about it, he said, what I will do is change it for myself, and then I'll help other people that have the same challenge. Lack of education, lack of the money, lack of the resources, lack of good health, faced with all kinds of difficulties they can't solve. I'll get mine solved, and then I'll be strong enough and have the skills to where I can help other people like I couldn't help my mother, but like I could help myself. That kind of leadership quality is so powerful. That kind of understanding. Here's the next one. A leader must have, Napoleon said, a mastery of the details. How very true. All can be lost with just a couple of missing details. On the trip to the moon, everything has to work. Right? There's several thousand moving parts. There's several thousand pieces to the project of getting to the moon and coming back, and all of them have to work. You can't have 10% of them working, 90% or 80%. They've all got to work. And then there's the backup systems for something if something goes wrong to back it up. That kind of mastery of detail is so vitally important. But here's what else to remember as far as Herbalife is concerned. The drama is in the details. Someone says, I lost 30 pounds. Well, 30 pounds is 30 pounds, but that's not the drama. The drama is, where were you before you found Herbalife? How did you feel? What kind of circumstances? Now someone begins to give us some of the details. And then after they've lost the weight, now how they feel. Now their self-confidence has been restored. Now they feel better about themselves. The drama is in the details. But this is also important in the details of your day, the details of your business, the details of good communication. Master the details. Good advice, Napoleon Hill. Now here's the next three. Willingness to assume full responsibility. All of us have been taught that, especially these Herbalife years, to take full 100% responsibility. Mark Hughes says, what happened to me might not have been my responsibility, but what I do about it is my full responsibility. I've had some people did me wrong. In his first couple of business experiences, he was done wrong. Some people ran off with the money. He was left holding the bag. But he said, that's what happened. And I was not responsible for what happened. But I am responsible for saying to myself, now, what am I going to do about what's happened? If a hailstorm destroys the farmer's crop, he wasn't responsible for that. But his responsibility now begins when the hailstorm is over, when he asks the question of himself, what should I do now? Now that this catastrophe is over, now that the damage is done, now what should I do about it? And a philosophy I've taught all these years, it's not what happens to you that determines your future. It's what you do about what happens that determines your future. And this is a major part of it, accepting full responsibility. If you've got an organization, you're conducting meetings, and you're the leader, the responsibility ends with you. Someone else may mess up, make some mistakes, still your responsibility. Some things over which you have no control, understandable. But what you do about it now, how you fix it, the diplomacy you use, the strategy you use, that's the kind of responsibility now that depends on you. Also, you've got to be responsible for your future. Nobody's going to fix it. No one else is going to design it. No one else is going to come along and say, hey, I will make sure it all works well for you. You've got to take all the input, you've got to take all the testimonials, all the teaching, all the training, all the influence, then you've got to have the responsibility of designing your life. You can design a life of prosperity, or you can design a life just to coast and get by. The responsibility belongs to you. Now here's the last two. Next is cooperation. One of the great things we learn in Herbalife is how to cooperate so that we take advantage of each other's ideas, we take advantage of each other's input, We take advantage of each other's enthusiasm. We take advantage of each other's testimonial. And we take advantage of each other's willingness to grow. That kind of cooperation has built Herbalife. In those early days, Mark got the group together. Jerry Shatanovich, Doug Stuntz, the rest, and made some plans to cooperate. Said, no telling what kind of powerful meetings we can have if we work together. No telling how many people we can affect, even right away, if we work together. You do this part, you do this part, I'll do this part, we'll make it work together, and we'll get the ball rolling. That kind of cooperation starts fortune making. There's an ancient phrase that says, if two or three agree, nothing is impossible. If they agree on the same project, if they agree on the same vision, if they agree on how to get there, I'm telling you, nothing is impossible. Nothing can stand in their way. Just two or three. What's exciting about Herbalife is now we have more than two or three. The president's team now is well populated. Even the chairman's club is growing. The millionaire team is awesome in its numbers as well as in its power. And the cooperation between all of us on the tabulator teams, as distributors, home office, support staff, 15th floor, wherever we come from. If we cooperate, there's nothing we can't do. There isn't anyone we can't touch. There is no country we can't finally get to with this incredible story. Cooperation. That's why I'm here, wanting to do my part, HBN, send out some ideas, give you some notes to take, something to think about and ponder, something to talk about with the people that you associate with and are building your business. That kind of cooperation is going to make this a powerful year. It'll get us to the 2 billion, 3 billion, 5 billion. But it'll get us to much more than just those numbers. It'll get us to a place of honor, respect, prestige, influence, feeling good about ourselves for the hard work that we're doing, cooperating with each other. I want to cooperate with you, helping build your business. All of us cooperate with the support system of Herbalife. We're on our way. We will have the billions. We'll have the stories. We'll have the experiences. Now here's the last one. Napoleon Hill said, a major attribute of leadership is vision. Vision is in many parts. One, a vision for your own course to follow. A vision for you, for yourself. A vision for your financial future. A vision for your health. A vision for your wealth. A vision for you to latch onto and make something out of. A vision for your family. Because vision must now lift others as well as ourselves. Guess what our family is counting on? That we'll be able to see things that at first they cannot see. That we'll be able to look further into the future than perhaps they will be able to look. The same is true with your organization, the people that are around you. They're counting on your vision. Perhaps you've been there a little longer than they have. Maybe you've been there a lot longer than they have. And they will look to you to help them see things that they can't see in the beginning. And if you will do that, develop that attribute of leadership, I'm telling you, you'll have such a dramatic effect on your organization, it will be unbelievable. A vision for yourself, a vision for your family, a vision for your organization, a vision for the people that you're close to. The old prophet said, without vision, we die. We perish. Unless we can see into the future, life loses its meaning. Unless we can look further than just where we are at the moment, then we have no reason for faith, no reason for activity. But if we'll develop this skill, beyond any other skill, I'm telling you, it will help us touch people because they'll want to be around us because we have this look into the future. Not only the short-range vision of what we're going to do this week, this month, this year, but the long-range vision like Mark has, taking us to the 5 billion. You can have a vision that will take your organization into the future and bless everybody with success, the success that they've all been looking for. I call this leadership studies. You know, Herbalife's been on this quest right from the very beginning to find leadership. People who can sell the product in a leadership role, not just sell it, but get people to use it, follow up. That's called the beginning of the leadership study. Then when you become a sponsor, You study how to be a good sponsor, giving that early information, because you're that first connection that someone has with Herbalife and the story. You know, they might have heard the story, the Mark Hughes story, but now you're the person who makes it real, either by telephone or in person. So learning to lead someone from what they don't know to what they should know, to give them advice on how to get started, how to get going, how to make it successful. You know, that's quite a responsibility. But that's what leadership is all about. Yes, it's a new opportunity, but it's also a new responsibility. And so I like to go through these leadership studies because we should all continue to be students. Many of you have already become leaders, but here's the key, and that is to be a student leader. Always studying ways to make your leadership more effective, your communication more dynamic, your understanding more expansive, your compassion a little deeper, your willingness to listen, you know, a little better, comprehending and turning it into something valuable that you can give back, that mechanism now starts to work better and better, working better as each year passes. A student leader. And leaders, of course, are not the only ones that need to be students. I wrote down here, the president needs to be a student. Mark Hughes has to continue to be a student. He was a founder of the company, but he's the student founder. He's the president now, but he's the student president. Continually looking for ways, whether it's style or content or product or presentation or understanding or a longer reach now than he had a few years ago. Mark is always looking for ways to be a more powerful leader of the company. Chairman of the board, what an incredible responsibility. You know, in the early years when he first got the title, that's one thing. But now, in a more mature way, he looks at this position of chairman of the board as a very incredible, responsible position. So he has to study ways now. Herbalife being traded, you know, on the open stock exchange. All of those responsibilities he didn't have when the company first got started, but he kept being a student at every position. And of course, at his level, you can imagine what the demands are to keep studying the craft, to make sure you keep up with the latest, not only in the technology of developing products, but in refining the marketing, in doing business in such a variety of countries. So the responsibility of leadership, you know, goes all the way from the top to the bottom. And wherever you find yourself today, myself in my position here, my position as a father, you've got to be a student father. If you're a mother, congratulations. I advise you to continue being a student mother. How could you be more effective as a mother this year versus last year? What new stories could you gather that would be valuable when you have a chance to talk to your children about some specific challenges or problems? That's called continually to being a student parent. So a student distributor, a student president's team member, a student global expansion team member. Now that you've gotten that new position on the tabulator team, study ways now to make that position so effective and so powerful and so to have such a unique reach that it won't take you long to get to millionaire team. And then you study that position, not just from the opportunity to earn the extra money. You know, we say millionaire team, you know, 2%, now 4%. And then to be worth the 4% in terms of your ability to communicate, your ability to lead, your ability to help people to grow. And then, of course, president's team, 6% extra. Being worth the 6% is more valuable than the 6%. But you must say, now that I've finally reached this position, president's team, I must now really intensify my studies, how to make this position valuable for myself, for the continuity of my family and my financial future, but also so that I build the right reputation for my organization. And now as president's team, I'm sure, you know, reaching out to help other lines of organization, not just your own, helping the company to grow as well as your organization to grow. Then the big responsibility of Chairman's Club, studying, not just arriving at that position, not just getting the new pin, but saying, how can I be worth the honor and the extra pay And how can I make my part of the Chairman's Club unique for my contribution? That continually requires study on your part. Learn the extra stories, do the extra reading, do the extra note-taking to make sure that you're not missing anything, especially in that prestigious position as well as responsible position. So that's what I'm talking about here now in being a leader. But now, here are some leadership studies, and I want to give you the list first, and then we'll come back and we'll go through this list and take them one at a time. Here's the first one, and that's be a student of possibility. Number one. Next, be a student of opportunity. Possibility is one study, opportunity is another study. Then third, be a student of ability. There's the company ability, there's the organizational ability, but I'm going to talk more personally here about your personal ability. Learning to recognize other people who have ability that no one else has encouraged, and now you have the opportunity to do so. Also recognizing your own personal ability. So we'll make that a part of our list. Here's the next one that's vitally important, and that's the study of inevitability. Some things at certain times become inevitable, and we'll go through that. And the last one is rationality. How to be a speed thinker. How to grasp problems and take them apart and put them back together in rapid fashion. How to ponder something and then make sure, that it fits you, it fits your philosophy, it fits what you want to accomplish. Rationality, very important subject to study. So that's the list. Possibility, opportunity, ability, inevitability, and rationality. Now, let's start with possibility. I heard a sermon just a few weeks ago. Young Schuler, Dr. Schuler of the Crystal Cathedral, it was his son who was filling in for him and preaching a sermon. And of course, I have lectured there for a long time, starting about 27, 28 years ago, and I'm always interested, especially when young Schuler is going to be on. He's remarkable. And here was the notes from his sermon. Now, I'm going to abbreviate it, but I think you're going to get the points that I'm going to cover here. I thought it was one of the classic sermons I've ever heard. And it had 3 major points. Not 30, just 3. But they were so classic, and here they were for your notes. Number 1, if you think it's impossible, it isn't. That was his first point. Point number 2, if you think you know everything, you don't. Number 2. Here was number 3. If you think you're alone, you're not. I thought those are some classic points. If you think it's impossible, it isn't. If you think you know everything, you don't. If you think you're alone, you're not. Now, under the title, If You Think It's Impossible, It Isn't, he told a unique story. It's the story of Rich DeVos, founder of Amway. Rich DeVos needed a heart transplant. Critical. Young Schuler said, my father went to offer a prayer for Rich DeVos. And when he got there, he said, Rich, a little difficult to pray this prayer because for you to get a new heart, somebody has to die. And he said, well, I guess we'll just pray the good Lord's will be done. Now, fast forward. Rich DeVos gets his heart transplant. That's one part of the story. But here's the rest of the story that's remarkable. Later, and not too long ago, Rich DeVos has the opportunity to have dinner with the lady who gave him her heart. You say, that's impossible. When I heard this, that's exactly what I said. The congregation that listened to the sermon, this is exactly what they all said. Impossible. you couldn't possibly have dinner with the person who gave you their heart. Here's what happened. There was a lady who needed, I believe it was a liver transplant. And many times it's best if the liver and the heart go together in a transplant. So someone who dies has donated their organs. This lady gets the liver and the heart as a single transplant, and now her heart is left over. And her heart goes to Rich DeVos. And that's how it was possible for Rich DeVos to have dinner with the lady who gave him her heart. Fantastic story. 20 years ago, couldn't have happened. Now, it's impossible. We say it's impossible, but it isn't. No telling what technology will do in the years to come. No telling what your faith can produce. No telling what can be done. That was a great point. If you think it's impossible, it isn't. Then the next point was classic. If you think you know everything, you don't. How often we've learned this, right? From the time we were just young until probably the present time, to where there were times along the way when we thought we knew it all. You know, we thought we knew everything. We thought we had it down. We thought we had it made. You know, we thought we had this one locked. And sure enough, we were surprised later that we didn't know everything. We thought we had the answer to this problem. We thought we had all the answer. But as it turned out, sure enough, we didn't have all the answers. Always surprised, thinking we know everything, thinking we've got it. Then sure enough, something comes along to prove us wrong. But that's how we grow. And you know, our own ego at times wants to believe that we do have the answers, that we've arrived. And then a touch of humility has to come to prove to us that we really don't know everything. We think we know everything about our business, but I'm telling you, we have a lot to learn. No telling what we can do if we keep this learning process. So that was a valid point. If you think you know everything, you don't. But this next one was good. If you think you're alone, you're not. Interesting. The Pledge of Allegiance in America says one nation under God. As a country, we really believe that. That in America, you know, we are not alone. And sometimes all alone, meaning by yourself, doesn't mean that you are alone. Somebody's prayer reaches you. Someone's spirit reaches you. Someone's presence, even though they're not there, you know, you sense it, you feel it. The telephone rings and you pick it up, and something told you that this was going to be a call from someone that you've wanted to hear from. That unseen magic that I talked about in my San Francisco presentation. It's always there. So we do believe when you think you're alone, you're not. Sometimes when I finish a rally or the extravaganza or some other presentation, here's what I say to everyone in my audience. I promise you when I leave here tomorrow, I will not leave you behind. I will take you with me in my thoughts and in my heart. And everyone senses that sure enough, I won't leave him behind. When I get together with my grandkids and my children, I will relate to them this experience. So the presence of this experience, the dynamics of this experience, the place we're meeting in, all of this, you know, I will take all of this with me, and especially the spirit, the collective spirit of everybody that was here that made it so unusual. I take that with me. I not only take it with me, jumping on the airplane to fly back to America, I take it with me wherever I go, and every time I share the story, someone is impressed, someone is affected because I didn't leave my audience behind. Then often I ask, how many of you have my name in your notebook, in your journal? Everybody raises their hands. Then I say, after we leave here and the lights are out and the place is dark, I go with you. My name is in your journal. But not just my name and not just my notes, hopefully, but my spirit, my good wishes, my prayer for you, I want my presence to follow you, so that when you relate to someone else the notes you've taken from one of my presentations, not only will the notes be there, but the Spirit will be there. So I thought this was an excellent point that young Schuler had. If you think you're alone, you're not. So first is the study of possibility. How many times did how many people say over the last 20 years about Mark's project of taking this incredible nutritional story around the world? How many of them said, impossible? I'm telling you, the list would be staggeringly long, especially in the beginning. The list was this long that said impossible. In fact, some that were invited to join declined because they thought it was impossible. How could a young kid, 23 years old, only went to the 9th grade in school, never graduated high school, no college, no university, no formal training to run a company? How could he have the audacity to say, I've got a product, we're going to take it around the world? They said impossible. They didn't join. They missed out on the possibility. So be a student of possibility. You never know in whose hands is the idea. You never know in whose head and whose heart is the idea. If it's in the right person's heart, the most incredible things can happen. We're a witness of that over the last 20 years. Now here was the next one. Possibility is one study. Let me finish now the rest of these. Next is to be a student of opportunity. Opportunity means springtime, to be able to recognize this is a good time. Those early distributors that joined, I'm telling you, this was part of their perception. This sounds like a great story. Mark sounds incredibly sincere. This might just be the time. That was back when, herbs was, not the most well-known, thought-out, superstar study of the day. But I'm sure those early distributors thought maybe this is the time when not just other nutrition that we've heard about, but herbal nutrition and all of that, this may be the time, this may be the moment. And they recognized it as spring. They also recognized it as spring for them because Mark brought them the financial opportunity. When he said, I'll teach you everything I know, and I'll teach you everything I learn as we go. They picked up on that, those early distributors, and said, hey, this could be the spring we've been looking for, with all of the components to make spring unique as we see it through the summer and harvest in the fall. They seized the moment, and that's what you must do with opportunity, is to seize the moment. Whether the moment might be someone you see standing there and you say, I should introduce myself and tell my story, or at least say hello and see if the window will open a new opportunity. I had that chance just not long ago. The gardener who takes care of some of my my landscaping. And, I hadn't talked to him before, and I thought this is a good opportunity. And I told him about Herbalife, and I told him about Mark Hughes, and I told him about my position, and I told him, what was happening, some of the things currently that was happening. Just incredible. His eyes lit up, and soon he's becoming an Herbalife distributor. But seizing the moment, not letting opportunity slip away. Be a student of when it's the right time. Be a student of when this is the moment. This could be the year. The first 3 months of the next year to set up the year 2000. You say, I'm going to recognize this as a new opportunity for me to really pour it on these first 3 months. I'm calling it springtime. Putting together an artificial spring. In an industrialized society, it's hard to recognize when is spring, when is summer, when is harvest. So sometimes you have to sort of manufacture a spring. When we open up a new country, of course, now it's springtime. But if you've been going along and you've been a distributor like here in America for, quite some time, just create a spring and say for the next 90 days, springtime. We're going to call it the spring campaign, a heavy recruiting effort, a heavy customer base effort called springtime. Learning to recognize opportunity, be a student of opportunity. Now, here's the others. Next is ability. Human ability, as we ponder and think back over as much history as we've mastered. of what human beings have done in the last 6,000 years, and especially what human beings have done that we know more particular about the last couple of hundred years, since the birth of America, especially us who are Americans. But the last, let's say, 1,000 years of the Renaissance, walking hopefully out of the Dark Ages, when there was a whole burst of freedom, of thought, craft, artist, genius, music. It seems like all of these unique architecture, all of these things sort of began to awaken almost simultaneously. And within a few short years, everything seemed to be bursting forth like a variety garden called the Renaissance. But that helps us to understand, pardon me, that human ability is just incredible. Given the right moment, given the right opportunity, given the right climate, given the right season, human beings can think,